The sharp, condescending tone of the flight attendant cut through the quiet hum of the first-class cabin. "Sir, I've told you 3 times now. We need you to gather your belongings and deplane." Marcus Thorne didn't move, his gaze calm, his posture relaxed, an island of stillness and a sea of rising tension. The flight attendant, whose name tag read Dana, placed a hand on his shoulder, a gesture of forced intimacy that felt more like a shove. "Don't make me have security remove you." He looked at her hand on his shoulder, then back at her face, and said nothing. Yet the look in his eyes made her flinch. She had absolutely no idea what she had just done. 3 days earlier, Marcus was not in a bespoke suit in a sterile boardroom, but in a dusty, cavernous warehouse on the outskirts of Baltimore, laughing with a forklift operator named Sal. He wore what his executive team affectionately called his field uniform, a simple black hoodie, worn jeans, and a pair of scuffed work boots. He was the founder and CEO of Nexus Logistics, a company that had quietly become the central nervous system of global commerce. Nexus didn't just move boxes, it managed the flow of everything. Their proprietary software, FlowState, coordinated maritime shipping lanes, automated cargo manifests for 70% of North American air freight, and even managed the supply chains for sensitive government agencies. At 34, Marcus Thorne was a ghost in the machine of his own making, a billionaire who preferred the hum of a server farm to the applause of a shareholder meeting. His name was on the patents, his biometrics were the master key to the entire system, but his face was virtually unknown. He valued anonymity above all else, seeing it as the ultimate luxury. This trip was personal. He was flying commercial under a non-corporate booking to see his younger sister graduate from her master's program in Chicago. He'd promised her he'd be there, and Marcus Thorne did not break promises. His backstory was a quiet testament to this iron will. The son of a career Army quartermaster and a public school teacher, he'd grown up understanding the intricate dance of systems and the quiet dignity of service. He'd put himself through MIT on a series of scholarships and by working graveyard shifts coding for fledgling startups. He saw the world not as a collection of people, but as a series of interconnected nodes, and he saw the friction, the inefficiency, the waste, the bias, as a problem to be solved. Nexus Logistics was his solution. The company was built on a simple, radical principle. Efficiency is blind to everything but results. It was a creed he lived by. As he stood in the Baltimore warehouse discussing the optimal pallet stacking algorithm with Sal, he wasn't a CEO. He was just a guy who liked solving puzzles. No one looking at him would guess he held a security clearance that made senators blush, or that his personal net worth could alter the GDP of a small nation. They would just see a quiet, unassuming black man in a hoodie. And that invisibility was his most valuable asset, a shield he used to move through the world and observe its flaws without disturbing them. He was a systems analyst in a world that insisted on judging him by his cover. But the system always reveals itself, and so eventually did the world's judgment. Dana, the lead flight attendant on Global Air Flight 1138 from Baltimore to Chicago, prided herself on her intuition. 15 years in the sky had honed her ability to read people, or so she believed. She could spot a nervous flyer from the way they gripped their armrest, a honeymooning couple by their shared secret smiles, and a troublemaker from a mile away. To her, trouble looked a certain way. It was often loud, sometimes drunk, but most insidiously, it was out of place. When Marcus Thorne boarded with the first-class group, her internal alarms chimed. He didn't fit her mental image of a premium passenger. The hoodie, the jeans, the quiet way he found his seat without making eye contact, it all felt wrong. She saw a young man who had somehow slipped through the cracks, a potential issue waiting to happen. Her worldview was a rigid hierarchy, and on this metal tube hurtling through the sky, she was at the top. Her authority was absolute, her judgment swift and final. She watched him from the galley as he settled into seat 3A. He didn't order a pre-departure champagne, merely asking for water. He didn't boast or preen. He just sat looking out the window, a picture of quiet contemplation. This unnerved Dana more than any outright aggression. It felt like a challenge to her authority, a silent refusal to perform the role of a grateful premium passenger. She decided he was a problem, a passive-aggressive one, the most dangerous kind. Her mind, colored by years of accumulated biases and workplace folklore, began to construct a narrative. He was probably on a buddy pass, smug and entitled, or maybe the ticket was fraudulent, a stolen credit card. The fatal mistake began to coalesce in her mind, a decision born of assumption and arrogance. She would perform a random verification of his boarding pass. She approached him, her smile tight and professional. "Sir, I'm just going to need to see your boarding pass again." He complied without a word, showing her the pass on his phone. The name read M. Thorne. It was a legitimate ticket. This only hardened her resolute. She felt he was mocking her, his calm a form of insolence. She needed a reason, any reason, to reassert her dominance, and then she found it. His carry-on, a standard-issue backpack, was tucked neatly under the seat in front of him, but a single strap was peeking out into the aisle by less than an inch. That was all the justification she needed. Returning to the present, Dana fans over him, her voice escalating, drawing the attention of the other passengers. "Sir, this is your final warning. Your bag is a safety hazard, and you have been uncooperative. You need to leave the aircraft now." Marcus finally looks up from the window, his expression unreadable. "My bag is stowed correctly, and I have been perfectly cooperative," he states, his voice even and low. It carries no anger, only a quiet firmness that seems to infuriate Dana even more. "You have a defiant attitude, sir," she snaps, her professionalism in her voice cracking. "That's it. I'm calling the captain." She storms off toward the cockpit. A few passengers start whispering. A man in seat 4B, a corporate lawyer in a crisp suit, discreetly starts recording on his phone. The injustice is a palpable thing in the air-conditioned cabin, thick and uncomfortable. Everyone feels it, but no one moves. No one wants to become the new target of Dana's righteous fury. A moment later, Dana returns, not with the captain, but with two airport security officers. She points a trembling finger at Marcus. "That's him. He's refusing to comply with crew instructions. He needs to be removed." The officers, a man and a woman, look uncomfortable. They see a calm man sitting in his seat and a frantic flight attendant. "Sir," the male officer begins, "would you mind coming with us to the jet bridge so we can sort this out?" Marcus looks at the officer, then at Dana's triumphant, flushed face. He sees the phone recording a few rows back. He understands this is no longer a conversation, it's a performance, and he is being cast as the villain. He slowly nods. "I will not," he says, his voice still quiet, "but it appears I have no choice." With a sigh, he unbuckles his seatbelt, stands, and retrieves his backpack. He doesn't look at the other passengers, their faces a mixture of pity, fear, and morbid curiosity. He walks ahead of the officers, his back straight, his dignity a silent rebuke to the scene he is leaving behind. As he steps into the sterile confines of the jet bridge, the door hisses shut behind him. The trigger had been pulled. The activation sequence had begun. In the quiet of the jet bridge, the muffled sounds of the airport outside providing a low hum, Marcus turns to the two security officers. The anger and humiliation that should be on his face are absent, replaced by a chillingly calm focus. "May I have your names and badge numbers, please?" he asks, his voice polite, almost academic. The officers, taken aback by his composure, exchange a glance. The male officer, badge number 714, says, "I'm Officer Miller. This is Officer Chen." Marcus nods, pulling out his phone. It's a sleek, custom-built device devoid of any branding. He taps the screen a few times, his fingers moving with practiced speed. He isn't typing a tweet or calling a lawyer. He's accessing a private, encrypted network. He selects a single contact, Rostova. The call connects in less than a second, without a single ring. Rostova, a crisp female voice, answers. "Initiate protocol gray flag," Marcus says, his voice flat and devoid of emotion. "Authorization, Thorne Marcus, Sierra 77 Alpha. Airline, Global Air, Flight 1138. I've been unjustly removed from the aircraft. I am secure.
"Acknowledged, Marcus," Rostova replies, her tone immediately shifting from professional to dangerously alert. "Gray flag is active. Stand by." The call ends. It was less than 10 seconds. Marcus puts the phone back in his pocket and looks at the two security officers, who are watching him with a new, dawning sense of unease. They have no idea what protocol gray flag is, but the man in front of him has just shifted from a problem passenger to a profound mystery. In 47 seconds, the entire building would know his name. Miles away, in a secure, windowless facility in Virginia, known only as the Hub, General Ava Rostova, the COO of Nexus Logistics and former Deputy Director of Homeland Security, ends the call with Marcus. She swivels in her chair to face a massive wall-sized screen displaying a map of the globe overlaid
with thousands of moving data points. "Activate gray flag," she commands to the open air. The room's AI acknowledges her voice. On the main screen, a section of the map centered on Baltimore-Washington International Airport flashes red. The words, "Gray Flag Event," appear in stark white letters. An automated system designed by Marcus himself for just this type of contingency springs to life. It was a corporate defense mechanism created after a Nexus engineer was wrongfully detained in a foreign country, a system designed to exert maximum leverage to ensure the safety and dignity of its key personnel. The first ripple hits Global Air's gate terminal. The agent trying to process the flight's new manifest suddenly finds her screen locked, displaying a single, ominous message in red: "External System Override. Network Integrity Audit in Progress. Cease all operations. Stand by for regulatory contact." She can't issue boarding passes. She can't close out the flight. She can't even access the passenger list. The plane, with its crew and passengers still on board, is now a metal box with no destination. The ripple expands. The Gray Flag Protocol, cross-referencing Marcus's location, identifies Global Air as the target and begins its primary function. Nexus Logistics flow state software is the core of Global Air's entire cargo and baggage handling operation. The protocol sends a single command: initiate system-wide integrity hold. Across 9 major airports in North America, every automated baggage carousel and cargo loader servicing Global Air grinds to a halt. Thousands of bags stop moving. Hundreds of tons of commercial freight are frozen on the tarmac. At LAX, a baggage handler watches in confusion as the entire system just stops. His console flashes the same message: Network Integrity Audit in Progress. Then the ripple goes national. Rostova makes a second call, this time to a direct, secure line at the Federal Aviation Administration's command center. "This is General Rostova at Nexus Logistics," she says, her voice like ice. "We are declaring a Level 4 partnership breach with Global Air effective immediately. Our systems are detecting a critical failure in their operational and ethical protocols. We are advising a full grounding of their fleet pending a joint investigation." The news cycle catches fire. Financial news terminals light up with alerts. Global Air's stock plummets on rumors of major logistics dispute. The video of Marcus being escorted off the plane, uploaded by the passenger in 4B, hit social media. Within minutes, hashtag Gate1138 and hashtag FlyingWhileBlack are trending. The clip is raw, undeniable, and it's attached to the growing chaos of canceled flights. The narrative is forming. A black man was unjustly removed from a flight, and now the airline is in free fall. Within 57 minutes, 114 Global Air flights are grounded. Over 15,000 passengers are stranded. And the company's stock, which represents a market capitalization of $48 billion, has entered a nail spin, shedding $2.3 billion in value before the CEO of Global Air even knows what has happened. He was about to find out. Robert Miller, the CEO of Global Air, was in a meeting discussing quarterly fuel cost projections when his assistant burst in, her face pale. "Sir, you need to see this. General Rostova is on line 1, the FAA is on line 2, and I think our stock has been halted." Miller, a portly man whose career had been a steady, comfortable climb, felt a cold dread wash over him. General Rostova was not someone who called about fuel costs. He took the call in his private office, activating the video screen. Rostova's face appeared, her expression as hard and unyielding as granite. She was in the Nexus hub, the red glow of the gray flag alert visible on the screen behind her. "Mr. Miller," she began, dispensing with any pleasantries, "at 14:22 Eastern Time, your employee, a flight attendant named Dana Peterson, forcibly and without cause removed my CEO, Marcus Thorne, from Flight 1138. As a result, I have activated Protocol Gray Flag." Miller stared, dumbfounded. "Your CEO, Marcus Thorne? I don't understand." "That is precisely the problem," Rostova continued, her voice cutting. "Your organization has demonstrated a catastrophic failure of situational awareness. Marcus Thorne is the chief architect of the flow state system your entire cargo division depends on. Your employee did not remove a passenger. She compromised a critical piece of human infrastructure. She breached the ethical and operational integrity clauses of our multi-billion-dollar partnership agreement." She leaned forward, her eyes narrowing. "The Gray Flag Protocol is a non-negotiable automated response. Our systems are currently locking your airline out of our network. We are conducting a full invasive audit of your security, training, and ethics protocols. The FAA has been notified that we no longer have confidence in your ability to operate safely." Miller's world was spinning. He had seen Marcus Thorne's name on documents, of course, the mysterious, reclusive genius behind Nexus. He'd never seen a photo. He'd assumed he was some old tech wizard hidden away in Silicon Valley. The disconnect was staggering. "A flight attendant? Because of a flight attendant?" he stammered. "No," Rostova corrected him, "because of a system that allows a flight attendant to weaponize her personal bias, and in doing so, risk the stability of your entire company. This isn't a customer service complaint, Mr. Miller. This is a systems failure of existential proportions. We have a list of non-negotiable terms for remediation. You have 1 hour to agree in principle before our legal team begins the process of permanent dissolution of our contract." She went white. She reached for the phone, without a word. Down at BWI, Dana was feeling vindicated. She had successfully removed the problem, and the flight was now just waiting on some inexplicable network issue to be resolved. She was sipping a coffee in the employee break room when the station manager and 2 grim-faced individuals in dark suits walked in. "Dana Peterson?" one of the suits asked. He flashed a badge. "FAA Ethics Division. We need you to come with us." In a sterile gray office, the reality of her situation began to crash down on her. She recounted her story, painting herself as the diligent employee, the protector of the rules. She expected nods of agreement. Instead, she got silence. "Miss Peterson," the FAA agent said, "are you aware of who you removed from that flight?" "A non-compliant passenger," she said, her voice wavering for the first time. The station manager, looking like he was about to be physically ill, slid a tablet across the table. On the screen was a Forbes article with the headline, "The Quiet Titan, How Marcus Thorne's Nexus Logistics Conquered Global Commerce." The photo showed Marcus, not in a suit, but in his trademark hoodie, standing in front of a bank of servers. His net worth was listed at $14 billion. "The man you removed was Marcus Thorne," the manager said, his voice a choked whisper. He owns the company that runs every piece of our cargo and logistics software. The network issue that has grounded over 100 of our planes and is currently costing us billions of dollars, that's him. Or rather, that's his company's response to what you did." Dana stared at the photo. The face was the same. The quiet eyes, the calm expression. It was him. The blood drained from her face. Her phone buzzed on the table, then again and again. Her social media was exploding. The video was everywhere. She was no longer Dana, the flight attendant. She was #GateGateDana, the face of corporate bigotry, a viral villain in a story spiraling out of her control. The FAA agent slid another paper across the table. It was a notice of the immediate suspension of her flight license, pending a federal investigation. Her career wasn't just over, it was annihilated. In that moment, she finally understood. She hadn't been enforcing the rules, she had been enforcing her own prejudices, and they had just cost her and her employer everything. In the days that followed, Global Air capitulated completely. To prevent a complete corporate collapse, they agreed to every one of Nexus Logistics' demands. The resulting overhaul was swift and brutal. The Thorn Mandate was born, a sweeping set of institutional reforms designed by Rostova's team and implemented under the watchful eye of federal regulators. First, a new zero-tolerance anti-bias policy was put in place, with clear, immediate consequences. Second, Global Air was forced to invest $500 million in a new training program, co-developed with Nexus. This wasn't a one-off seminar with stale donuts. It was a mandatory, ongoing series of VR simulations. Employees were put into hyper-realistic scenarios, forcing them to confront their own snap judgments and de-escalate situations without resorting to biased authority. The program was designed to retrain their intuition, to replace prejudice with process. News of the Thorn Mandate and its shocking origins rippled through the industry. Other airlines, terrified of a similar self-inflicted catastrophe, began proactively contacting Nexus Logistics. They wanted to license the training, to adopt the protocols. The Thorn Mandate unexpectedly became a new industry standard, a costly but necessary vaccine against the disease of unchecked bias. The incident forced a global conversation in the aviation industry, with international bodies convening to discuss new universal standards for passenger rights and employee conduct, all under the new umbrella of operational integrity. A week later, Marcus Thorne was back in his office at the Nexus headquarters. The space was minimalist, functional, dominated by a single massive screen displaying the elegant, pulsing data of the flow state network. He had refused all interviews, issued no public statement, and rejected a personal, growling apology from Robert Miller. He hadn't wanted revenge, he had wanted the system fixed. His power was not in his wealth, but in his ability to identify a flaw and rewrite the code. He had seen a bug in the human operating system and had forced a patch. The victory was not in Dana's downfall or Miller's humiliation. It was in the quiet implementation of a new, better protocol. The lasting impact was visible not in newspaper headlines, but in small, unseen moments. 6 months later, a young, nervous flight attendant on a different airline sees a young man in a hoodie take his seat in first class. A flicker of the old prejudice, the old training crosses her mind. But then the new training kicks in, the Thorn Mandate. She smiles, walks over, and asks, "Can I get you a drink before we take off?" It's a small gesture, a tiny course correction, but multiplied across an entire system, it changes everything. At the FAA headquarters, a new wing dedicated to professional development is opened. Above the entrance, a simple bronze plaque is installed. It reads, "In recognition of the principle of operational integrity and the unassailable right to human dignity." The resolution was quiet,
the change profound. The system was repaired, the price was paid, and the lesson was learned. But what does it say about our world that it can take a $48 billion crisis to afford one person a simple measure of dignity? And what happens to those who don't have a gray flag to call?